This is the Cook Islands cases. I will present two cases on Cook Islands based again on this report from the Asia Pacific Fraud and Money Laundering report. So in terms of Cook Islands, I will represent this case. Case number 3, I've decided to overlook case number 1 and 2 because they are just easy fraud cases, which involves direct fraud being conducted by the two officers, one from tourism industry, the other from the financial institutions. They were directly involved by just fraudulently stealing funds out from Westpac, the bank, which is the Westpac Bank in Cook Islands, and as well as the other one is a direct stealing from the tourist resort that he was working on. So these two are simply very easy cases. On this third case, which I want to dwell in, it's a relatively short case, but I will quickly go over it. So what is currently investigated by the Cook Islands Police and Financial Intelligence Unit are relating to two ministers. So one is the Minister for Marine Resources, who is responsible for issuing of fishing licenses to both local and foreign fishing vessels. The minister approved the issuing of an additional license to a foreign fishing company, who also bought a boat from the minister for the sum of 26,000. The minister bought the boat from a local owner for 20,000 and sold it to the foreign fishing company for 26,000. So he resold it to this foreign company for 26,000. So the investigation is probably, among others, is the interest of this minister issuing the additional license, and out of this issuance of this license, these transactions actually occurred. So the foreign company, you can tell that they are probably not interested in the boat, because subsequently they gifted the boat to a fishing association with which the minister is associated as a member of the association of the shipping industry. So this minister was involved in kind of twofold situations here, or three. One, issuing an additional license. Second, resell a asset or a boat that he owns, and it's also within the business that he is having a authority as a portfolio minister. Secondly, the fishing company gifted this boat to the association that he is part of for free. So the minister has now been relieved from the portfolio pending investigation. So this one is it's a very simple case, but it's also involved a minister, and because it's involved a minister, it comes down to the way these transactions have been conducted, and then at the end of this summary case, it involves that, it looks like the minister is not interested in owning the boat as well as this fishing company. So you can tell that everything was made easy because of the position of being a minister of the crown. The second minister is the minister responsible for transport. In Cook Islands, the minister responsible for transport is the same minister that is responsible for issuing shipping licenses for commercial vessels to transport goods within Cook Islands. So it is the Minister of Transport that is responsible here for such issuance of shipping licenses. So in that year, in 2014, the Deputy Prime Minister declined an application by a foreign company for a shipping license with the intent that the license was to be offered to a local company and operators. So as we can see, the Deputy Prime Minister turned down a shipping license to operate within Cook Islands, but it is a foreign company. However, it was alleged that the minister, without knowledge of cabinet, approved the shipping license to the foreign company, and in return he was gifted 30,000. So as a result of that violation of decision making, this cabinet minister actually received a gift of 30,000, which he used as a prize money on behalf of his business towards the annual Constitution Day of Cook Islands being celebrated on his island. So that was it. So what's the interest here? So the interest here, the minister together with a local businessman bought a property on his island for $1 million. So out of this transaction of property acquisition, they borrowed from the bank 700,000, and an additional 250 came from the lawyer's trust account, which originated from overseas. The other 50,000 also came from another lawyer's trust account as investment to make up the total of 1 million. So the matter is now under investigation when the report was drafted. Now, what is important here, if you've read, so if you have looked at the discussion that I made in terms of the international money laundering cases, as an investigator, we can tell that the investigation is still going on, is still ongoing. So it is of interest, like if the investigation is continued. What's of interest was the background of this 250, like it's coming out from the lawyers. So based on the cases that I presented for the international company and money laundering conduct in other jurisdictions, this 250,000 gifted from the lawyers and the other from the other lawyers, the investigation should not stop here. They should go beyond, go abroad in terms of other jurisdictions of which this lawyer's trust account facilitated other transactions from overseas. So if you keep tracking based on the diagram that I've discussed in other international cases, like the cases of Peru or the cases of the Chinese bank employees. So it's kind of interest, like this case has to go. This case has to go and explore and exploit what actually funds that have been received from the lawyers from this overseas source of funding. And also you can go to another layer. Where are they getting these funds from? So that will be part of the investigation, which we all know that it's still ongoing. So this is the second minister that is caught under the case 3 of the Cook Islands. The case number 4, it's related to in July 2014, a report was received from a trustee company about a client owned by an individual who had been indicted in the United States for 5 counts of making false statement to an insurance regulator for the total of $5 million. The alleged period of offending was from June 2012 and April 14. The matter was now investigated by the FBI, Homeland Security, and Internal Revenue Services, and by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement in America, United States of America. So as at 1st September 2014, the balance in the trust account with a local bank was only $8,200. An instruction to freeze the remaining funds was issued by the Financial Intelligence Unit on 9 September 2005. I think one of the interests of this case is the law enforcement agencies and the Financial Intelligence Unit, which stands as a financial unit as well as the law enforcement agencies. They can also act on a report and compile themselves a police statement, law enforcement statement, so that they can commence an investigation. So this is the interest of this case. The law enforcement acted on a report based on what actually happened overseas. So because of the agents, associates of companies, of those who are associated with that report are established within the country and jurisdictions of certain countries, it is important that I think that countries should take up the investigations of that into that particular company of interest. So this is what actually in case 2000. So this is actually with the case study 4 here. Important to point out emerging trends and vulnerabilities and potential that have regime efforts in the Cook Islands. Here, the emerging trends are new technology, cross-border movement of illegal goods and currencies, cybercrime, tax evasion, and official corruption. So despite the fact that they have emerging trends and despite the fact that Cook Islands is also a tax haven within the Pacific, the level of investigations here is reflected in the case studies that put out by Cook Islands is a bit of surprisingly low. But again, that's their jurisdiction and it depends on the law enforcement agencies on how they handle suspicious transaction reports as well as reports that are related to this area of the emerging trends. So We also can see that within Cook Islands, international trusts and companies also have huge presence in the Cook Islands jurisdiction, and also out of these days also being used as transit vehicle to launder illegal proceeds to another jurisdictions, which is quite obvious. But the investigations and then the whatever happens within Cook Islands has not reflected on this emerging trend. So it is quite of a it is now a challenge for the future and the law enforcement agencies to make a proper analysis on the way they deal with this emerging trend.